Hello everybody and welcome back to the Philly Sports Network YouTube channel, where today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, before we kick off endless months of coverage on prospects and free agents and potential trades, we wanted to end with one last look back at 2019. Now, starting tomorrow, we're going to have some prospect breakdowns on the players to watch at this weekend's East-West Shrine game. But before that, it's one last serenade to the 2019 season that was. A year of highs, lows, and just about everything in between. And, Orlando Scandrick. So for those of you that follow my content over at phillysportsnetwork.com, you'll know that one thing I love to do is a weekly report card, grading every position on how they did throughout the year. But now, it's the big one. It is the end of year report card for every single position. Bit of luck, this should help us at least understand where the major areas of need are for the team ahead of the offseason. So buckle up, strap yourselves in, and guys, if you are new around this channel, we know there are a lot of you that watch these videos without subscribing, and we would love to have you as a part of our community to be able to win some giveaways, to partake in the Discord discussions, and hopefully have some meetups and some cool stuff down the line. So if you can help us meet our goals, we'll absolutely do everything we can to become the best community possible. We need a community to do that though, and we would love for you to be part of it. Let me know down below how you would grade each position, and of course, if this video does hit 300 likes, we'll pick a random commenter to give them a free Philly Sports Network t-shirt, as long as they're subscribed. That's, you gotta scratch my back and I'll scratch yours here, alright? Alright, let's start off with the face of the franchise, Carson Wentz. There's a lot of discussion around Wentz this year, and those last 4 games were absolutely stupendous. But as an overall season grade, if we're talking from A+ being absolutely incredible Lamar Jackson level, and F to ungradable being the equivalent of Ronald Darby, Wentz is certainly towards the higher echelon of that. But was he an elite quarterback? Was he worthy of an A grade? And I'm gonna put him at B+, and I'm gonna explain why. On one hand, yes, he became the first ever Eagles quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, and he did so without a receiver having 500 yards receiving, although Zach Ertz had 900 and he's basically won anyway. And of course, he achieved all of this, put up one of his best seasons yet by throwing to a group of practice squad players. Very few QBs in the league could do what he did. But there is one flaw that was present in 2018, it was present in 2017, it's present now, and it's ball security. When I talk about reckless play with Carson Wentz, I'm talking about ball security. The man had 17 fumbles in 2019, and if you just look at the top 5, he ranked 2nd in the league. They're all young, inexperienced quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew, Kyle Allen, Daniel Jones. Every other elite quarterback has a drastically lower number, and the one thing Wentz has always done is that when he's going to the ground, he has his tendency to try and force the ball out, and he's very lucky on several occasions that those forces away weren't picked off and returned or fumbled and returned for a touchdown. Wentz is an elite quarterback. He is. But he didn't quite hit that level this year. He was a great quarterback, certainly a top 10 quarterback, but I'm not going to give him an A for a season where he did sting the team at times, and it took him a while to get going. When the offense settled down, it was built around him. He was amazing, but contextually, it was against a dreadful NFC East division and the Miami Dolphins. So I think a B+ is a fair grade, but again, let me know and scold me down in the comments and tell me that I should stick to soccer. Next up, we're gonna talk running back, and it's very, very hard not to be overly optimistic with this. To start things off, as always with Peterson coach teams, we saw a slow progression. We had Darren Sproles suddenly the lead back in week 1, then Howard was barely getting the ball, then Saunders was overfed, and then it settled down and Jordan Howard was at a career high yards per carry. Then he got injured, and then out came Myles Saunders and had one of the best rookie seasons for a running back in recent memory. He's up there with the likes of Saquon Barkley in terms of production, and the one thing I really liked this year was the game-by-game development. He started out as someone that really struggled to make a decision as to where to cut or which hole to dive through, and by the end of the year, he was a much more confident running back, someone that was able to hit the hole, to put his foot in the ground and just turn upfield. It was amazing to see. The numbers speak for themselves. I don't really need to harp on about just how historical he was. He broke the Eagles' rookie rushing record, which was of course last broken by LaShawn McCoy. 800 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving. There's not much more you could ask from a rookie running back than what Myles Saunders gave you this year. I'm gonna say B+ for this one, because I think it could have been better. Saunders certainly isn't an elite back just yet. He's got elite potential. Gonna take a lot to get in there. Boston Scott was fantastic. I mean, obviously my heart is still salty. Given that Saunders did go through quite a rough progressional period, given that Jordan Howard obviously went down, I think a B is a fair grade for running back. I mean, they were very good. They flashed excellent potential at times, but there were other games where they weren't as productive, or Myles Saunders was totally snuffed out. Like, look at the game against the Patriots, for instance. Overall, very, very good. Very, very promising. Can't wait to see what comes next. But a B, I think, is a fair grade for now. Carson Wentz was sacked 37 times this season, and if that kind of doesn't show you where we're looking with the offensive line, I don't know what will. Don't get me wrong, the Eagles O-line is still among the very best in the league, with Pro Bowl potential throughout. Guys like Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, all mainstays here. But Jason Peters getting a false start every week, then having to rely on the backups who did struggle at times. There are a few miscommunications. They randomly started Andre Dillard at right tackle instead of Jason Peters when Lane Johnson went down. I will never understand that decision. For that reason, I'm going with a C. Like, they weren't great. In terms of run blocking, they were fantastic. They were playing bully ball as they always do. But there were a few too many instances this year, a few too many flags where they clearly need that change. They need it accelerated. They need Dillard at left tackle. They need to pull away from Jason Peters. Position should be, and I mean should be, among the very best on the team, and it just wasn't this year. So I'm going to give it a C. 10, you've got the record-breaking Zach Ertz. You've got a late breakout from Dallas Goedert, and then there's whatever Alex Ellis and Richard Rodgers were doing. Why there wasn't a third tight end kept on this roster, I'll never know. Now, we know that receiving depth was bad, but the fact that your leading receivers in 2019 were Ertz and Goddard, both of them combining for over 1,500 receiving yards, that's amazing. The Eagles got so much production. As run blockers, they were excellent throughout. I mean, there was one point against Seattle where Dallas Goedert was manhandling 2 players down the field. He was a man on a mission. The development of Goddard as a route runner is impressive, and we already know just how dangerous Zach Ertz can be. So I'm going to go with a B because, of course, there were a couple of moments where Zach Ertz either A, turned round and run the wrong way, or Dallas Goedert suffered with the dropsies early on. Had it not been for that tiny, tiny little window of disappointment, the rest of it would have been elite, A+, A star, whatever you want to call it. But because of those things at the start, because it took a little while, we're going to go with a B. Wide receiver. Oh, I mean, we've got to be fair. We've got to kind of view it in 2 parts, haven't we? That the starters went out and it was shambolic, all right? Aguilar was dropping things left, right, and centre. Jeffrey didn't look bothered at times. Deshaun Jackson got injured. That is about a D to an E. And then you've got the breakout of Greg Ward Jr. and very late breakouts from names like Robert Davis and Deontay Burnett, who arguably showed more than those guys ever could. And I would love to keep them separate and give them a C or a slightly higher grade. Greg Ward deserves a C on his own just for the amount of hustle and production he brought to the table. But overall, we've got to clump it together. It was massively underwhelming. D-. On to the defensive line, and it wasn't Fletcher Cox's biggest season, but they lost a lot of depth. Malik Jackson went down in week 1, Hassan Ridgeway went down later on just as he was beginning to emerge as a really solid DT2 alongside, and Timmy Jernigan went as well. Brandon Graham had 8.5 sacks to his name. I'd have still liked to see a bit more from Josh Sweat, and Derek Barnett for me hasn't taken a massive step forward other than the fact that he can now do a spin move successfully, so well done. It was alright. I mean, they got pressure all season long. You can't scoff at how dominant they were in getting pressure to the quarterback, but as always has been with guys like Vinny Curry, they can do all that work getting to the quarterback, but they're missing that icing on the cake or the cherry on top to bring him down. That was again the case this year. For me, I'm gonna give him a B-. It could have been much higher. The production was definitely there. The run defense was absolutely brutal. They stuffed everyone. I can't name a single running back that had a field day against the Eagles this year, and that says a lot. Like, they were terrorizing in run defense, and that brings up, I think, the lack of consistency in terms of getting to the quarterback and bringing him down. So B-. Linebacker, Gary's development was interesting. Started out amazingly against the Atlanta Falcons, but then there are times where teams really did just pick on him. Apparently he did play through an injury, so we've got to give him that. But whether good, bad, or ugly, he still had 78 tackles and 2.5 sacks on the year. For what he is and what you're paying him, that's really damn good. Nigel Bradham wasn't as loud and as physical as he normally is. He looked a little bit slower this time around. Maybe the injury had something to do with it. And Camu Grugier-Hill obviously missed the opening stage of the season due to battling injuries of his own. TJ Edwards had a nice little flourish as an undrafted free agent, while special teams ace Alex Singleton, you'll forever have my heart, keep grinding. But overall, this unit needs help. I mean, we know the Eagles don't like to draft linebackers, but this has to be the year they do something. There's clearly a lack of starting prowess. They sorely missed Jordan Hicks in the middle, and for me this is a D. There were too many missed tackles. I think all 3 of the Eagles starting linebackers ranked in the bottom 10 in terms of tackling efficiency this year. It's just not good enough. On to cornerback. I'm going to try and not harp on about Ronald Darby here. Alright, I'm going to try my best. It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't great. I think a D is another fair grade here. I mean, there was so much miscommunication, some of it from the safeties, and we're going to touch on that. But Ronald Darby missing tackles throughout really hurt this team. Sidney Jones had a phase where he was benched for 5 weeks because he drew criticism from Jenkins and Peterson for not playing through pain. You've got Jalen Mills returning off IR, looking better than he has, but I feel like that may be his ceiling now. Like, this is the best cornerback play we've seen from Mills in a while, and it's still not something I would put all my chips on a massive 5-year extension. So I don't know where I stand with that. Only corner that genuinely stood out for me this year was Crayvon LeBlanc at the end, and even he had a bit of a whiff against the Seattle Seahawks, as much as that does pain me to say. Rasul Douglas, I just think, should be moved to safety. I've campaigned for that for about 3 years now through articles and videos. It just should happen. There is no production in terms of turnovers around the ball at the catch point from any corner not named Rasul Douglas, and it's not good enough. Invest into the position, get a big name free agent, draft a developmental talent, and get rid of whimsical Ronald Darby. It's not on. Safety, Rodney McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins. This is a mixed bag again, because in terms of what they brought to the team, that leadership, the tackling efficiency, Jenkins didn't take a single snap off. He was elite against the run. They combined for like 14 pass breakups, which is outstanding. It's just the miscommunications. It's just when they're trying to rotate coverages or rock and roll safeties that you end up missing assignments, and you've got corner shaded outside a receiver who can just cut inward over the middle when there's no safety there. And Deho existed for a bit, and Marcus Epps was alright. I think overall, a C is a fair enough grade for this. Like, you can't really ask for much more than a C. You can't really grade it higher than that because it was disappointing. You can't grade it lower because the guys had so many tackles. No, we'll raise it up. C+. They had that many tackles, a C+. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was good in bad places. Finally, special teams, where Cameron Johnson still has the best net punting average in the NFL, and Jake Elliott was money, had the best start to a season by an Eagles kicker, was money in the game against the Seahawks with a bit of a dip along the way. B+. Can't complain at that. B+ is absolutely fine. The special teams unit in terms of kick coverage was brilliant again. There were some real breakout stars there, like I mentioned, Alex Singleton. I think the unit's in safe hands with Dave Phipp, as it always is. From myself, Liam Jenkins, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to let me know your comments down there if you want to win a t-shirt. With some East and West Shrine coverage from tomorrow. I'll see you next time.